Right, so we were trained by Jerry Daniels. He was what they called an ethnic affairs officer, and you saw John Tucker talking on this video, CBS just now. And Jerry Daniels, because he lived in Laos with the Hmong for so long, training, had the memory that could verify their story. When International Rescue Committee hired Judy and Rich and I and other former Peace Corps volunteers to go to the camps and register everybody to process them through immigration. IRC made sure that we had all the resources we needed to go to the camps and then document their story. And so Jerry Daniels was CIA, and of course we never knew the secret war in Laos story. We were living in Thailand, doing our Peace Corps thing, teaching English, and none of our history books told us about the secret war in Laos. We learned this directly from Jerry. He wanted us to know details about what happened in the war so that when we wrote down their stories, we had to be very clear. Where were they trained? Some went to Texas. There were pilots who were flown to Texas. They learned English. They were paid in cash. What were their ranks? Exactly where were their training sites? What were their forays? And every detail we had to write down. And so, yeah, we spent a lot of time in Bangkok in training, would you say, learning from Jerry about not only the military background, but the culture of the Hmong, the clan system. Didn't know anything about a clan system and how important it is. So we were advocates, right? I mean, our job was to write down the story so that immigration would ultimately pass the family onto the American system and they could come to America. So being in the camp, Jerry actually lived in the camp with Colonel Mua Su. You have pictures in your exhibition that are remarkable of all of these former Hmong leaders in the secret war. You've got a whole panel, a whole wall of, and Colonel Mua Su was one of those. I noticed yesterday, Colonel Wang Yi, he was the deputy camp commander at Lui when I was there. And Mua Su, he had his own barrack. So everyone lived in barracks, right? And you had one room to live in for the whole family. So you had a room about the size of, maybe from that wall to where I'm sitting was a whole family. And that's where you lived for years and years. And so Jerry had one whole room to himself, and we as caseworkers had the next room. And then the next room to us was a family, and next to them was a family. So we would hear families all night long, babies crying or whatever. One night we heard a lot of strange sounds, and we smelled smoke, and there was a fire going on not too far away, and it turned out it was our office, quote unquote. It was this bamboo house that was built for our processing, and it was on fire. So somebody either had been rejected from the immigration process, or something happened, and there was some anger there, and a fire happened, and it totally destroyed the building. So we ran out, and the first thing we needed to do was get the case files out. And not only the case files, but the urine samples. So everybody had to give a urine sample to go through this processing. You guys could talk about it more probably if you want, but so these were critical things, and we had all the help of everyone to get, these stories, they're just coming to my mind now. But it was, being in that camp, also there was extraordinary gardening going on. People were feeding us while we were working there. We worked a week in the camp, a week back in Bangkok. Then we had to bring the casework back to present to INS, Immigration Naturalization Service. This was also another experience I'd never had, was working with U.S. Border Patrol, per se, or Customs. I had never experienced that. So we had U.S. immigration come to the camps and rely on us, right? I mean, they had just come from LaGuardia Airport, New York Airport or something, where they worked. I mean, they'd never been to Thailand, for instance. Then the next job was to sit in this camp and process a family sitting in front of them and say, you are rejected or you're approved. And it was our job to make sure that the case in front of them was a valid situation, okay? And Jerry Daniels was we would process everyone's documentation, Jerry would verify their story, and then they would go to immigration, and the immigration officer would either believe them or not. And yeah, I mean, the stories go on and on about you know, how families would get rejected, why they'd get rejected, opium use maybe, or somebody did not say the truth about the fact that their aunt sitting with them was actually a second wife, you know, and we have strict codes about polygamy here, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go on too long. Yeah.
No, thank you. What's
Yellow Rain is one other thing that I remember, the story of Yellow Rain coming up, and I documented Yellow Rain in sometimes. And when we had congressional delegations coming out to the camps to visit us, that it was brilliant. It was brilliant on the part of the State Department to say, okay, Congress, we need you to come up with the numbers to bring more refugees to the camp, to the states. You need to get more publicity. So congressional delegations would come out to the camps. We worked very hard for them. 3 delegations came to Lui in 1979. And so it was a lot of hard work to make sure that they got a really clear picture of how important it was. They went back to Congress and approved the numbers. And we had a lot of celebrities come. Joan Baez came. She sang in Bon Vinay, believe it or not. If you know who Joan Baez is, I don't know how many of you know, but I grew up learning her music, yeah. She came, decided to have a concert in Bon Vinay. It was sort of blew my mind. Why would anybody want to hear her sing about diamonds and rust or something? But anyway, she was doing a documentary for refugees, and it was very important. We also had Bayard Ruskin come. I have pictures of all these people. Okay, Bayard Ruskin, very, very, very important civil rights worker. He worked with Martin Luther King, and he worked out of New York. And he came because International Rescue Committee, he was on the board, and he came to Bon Vinay. So, yeah, I mean, it was really cool. I mean, here we are, these little Peace Corps volunteer type people, you know, who hadn't a lot of former experience in our lives, and we're put in a situation of tremendous challenge, and probably changed our lives forever.
Thank you.